Good afternoon. Welcome to Coaching Conversation Series. This is our finale, the last of the webinar. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. Should I put it that way? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Today is a new topic. It's very interesting, very challenging. It's going to be amazing because I do have an amazing guy here. Before I introduce him, I want to present something to you. During my coaching course at Cambridge, represented with various models. Out of that, I decided to go for something unique. Why is that? Because I did my own research, my own investigation, and I noticed that there are many models out there for coaches. But within my clientele, within my scope and my practice, I felt that something was on this one was unique. So I purchased it, Amazon, as a course where it comes from. And then I started reading it. I've read it from to end. And I decided to get in touch with the co-authors, which one of them is here this afternoon. So this book is an amazing book. And I'm glad that today I have Yin today to join us. Before I introduce Yin, let me give you just an overview of who he is. He's very experienced executive coach who has worked across various sectors. Yin is also a coaching, one of the well-known coaches in education UK. And he co-wrote this book with his good friend. I wouldn't go much about his bio. I would love him to give us an overview of who he is before we go into the topic. So Yin, good afternoon to the webinar.
Thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation and the introduction. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, hello to everybody. So it's a pleasure to be with you here. So yeah, as Eric said, I've been coaching for probably around about 20 years now, and was really taken by a potential gap in the coaching market of what there was something missing. I was originally in a corporate human resources role, and I was promoted and became head of talent for an international firm, and I was coached, and that was fantastic because that was a really fundamental change of outlook, motivation, everything for me. And I was so inspired that I went on to become a qualified coach. So I studied an advanced diploma in coaching and mentoring and started using coaching inside. And then when there was a reorganization, I took a severance package and left that organization to be a full-time coach and leadership consultant with a small consultancy firm. But there was something that wasn't quite right with the what was happening with the coaching profession. And my colleague and friend John Blakey and we sort of pondered on this for some time, and then in 2012 we published Challenging Coaching, and that was sort of the birth of this idea, and it's carried on from there.
Before we go into our topic today, quick question. I'm sure before you wrote this book, you've read many models. Which one? Because I have read about your program, your book, and there's many people about different feedback. What made this model unique? Because it has sold out millions of copies across the world. Why this model, this book?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Eric. I think Challenging Coaching does some things that other books don't do. I mean, at the heart of it, John Blakey and I talk about the fact that coaching has to have a balance of support and challenge. And I can go into a bit more detail about this in a while, but it seems to be that the challenge part has been absent, and for many, many reasons. And so what we do is present the way to maximize somebody's performance, optimize their way of being, is to balance support and challenge. So the whole of Challenging Coaching is built around that optimization of support and challenge. So it's not focusing on purely on the support, which a lot of the coaching bodies, their competency frameworks seem to. It is looking at this balance of support and challenge, and that's really the key difference. And it's very practically orientated because, as I say, I was in a corporate human resources job. John was a senior executive in different organisations, and we come from a very practical business background. So it's not something that's detached from reality. It's very much embedded in real coaching practice.
Excellent. I do believe we do have presentation today. So I'm going to now leave the space for you, Ian, to present to us what you have prepared for us. And please use the chat button. I've seen people already commenting. Good evening from Nana in Ghana. All the way from Ghana, welcome to our program. I've seen some US guys. Good evening, Queenie. Please use the chat button for any questions you might have. And good morning to Ellie from UK. Please use the chat button and Ian will be able to respond to questions. Ian, over to you now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. So I'll start a presentation. So what I'll do is talk you through some of the theories and models relating to challenging coaching. Now, while I do this, I won't be able to see any questions that you pose or any comments that you pose. So Eric will just shout these out to me. So feel free to continue to post your comments, and Eric will relay those onto me. So let me just share the screen with you and get you my presentation. So can I check you can see that? Yes, there you go. Let me just
yes.
Let's make that like, there you go. So hopefully that fills the full screen now. So as I say, I'll give you an overview of challenging coaching and what does this involve. But I'll give you a brief introduction. So as I said, start off with I worked in a corporate role, and as I said, as there was a reorganisation, I stepped out and worked in a consultancy. We specialised in executive coaching and leadership development, but also we took the model of Olympic rowing into organisations. And you can see, this is me standing in the middle now. I'm not particularly short, it's just that these guys are particularly tall because they're Olympic rowers. So they tend to be 6'6", 6'8", something like that. And I'm wearing the bronze medal that Alan Campbell, who's on my right, won at the London Olympics in 2012. So we would take the message of Olympic rowing and Olympic rowing coaches into organisations, and that sort of fed into the development of challenging coaching. And as challenging coaching was published, it got a lot of interest. So John Blakey and I travelled the world presenting at some of the largest international coaching contact conferences that there are, and also talking with organisations to help develop their leaders and managers and look at developing a coaching culture. And now I teach coaching at one of the UK universities. So John Whitmore, who's pioneered the area of coaching for many, many years, unfortunately passed away in 2017, but he started pioneering coaching probably in the 70s and 80s. Famous for writing coaching for performance and the forward for challenging coaching. But one of his sayings was that coaching is bigger than coaching. Now that's an unusual phrase, but I think what he means by that is that it's bigger than just a conversation with one other person. That it can change the life of that one person, but that one person can change the life of people within their teams, within their organizations, within their society. So coaching is bigger than just one conversation with another person because it has the power to change the whole of society. And I do believe that's very much the case, and something that inspired me as I was writing and talking about challenging coaching, that we can change the world through coaching. Mm-hmm. So I said in the introduction with Eric, this is very much this model here of support and challenge is at the heart of everything we do and everything we write about in support and challenge. So this is some research that was done a number of years ago, it was replicated several times, that identifies that performance is at its optimal level where there is this balance of support and challenge. Now, this is an interesting one to think about because, as I say, if I was to look at the coaching competencies, for example, the International Coach Federation, the ICF, if I was to look at their competencies, I'd probably notice that something like there's something like 63 of their competencies. I would maybe only pick out one that relates to challenge, and that's in their section which talks about evokes awareness, section 7 of their competency framework. It talks about challenges the client as a way to evoke awareness or insight. But if I was to look at the other 62 competencies in their framework, they would all be relating to support, so supporting the client. Well, I'm thinking, well, why is that? Why have we only got one competence in 63 relating to challenge? And I think we've got to look at the history of coaching. Where's coaching come from? And coaching has evolved out of counselling and therapy. And that has been a great thing because it's accelerated the professionalisation of coaching. It's given us a lot of models, a lot of approaches, but it's also got some things that hold us back. Because with therapy and counselling, the professional tends to be dealing with people that are in distress, in need of help. So they could be suffering from mental illness. They might be substance misusers. They might be victims of trauma. They might be going through a lot of tragedy in their life. So they need a lot of support because they're vulnerable. However, when I'm coaching somebody, I'm not dealing with somebody who's mentally ill or is unwell or is going through trauma, but are fairly typical of the population. So maybe I don't need to offer the support that a counsellor would need to offer to their clients. So maybe I can challenge people. And when I was talking to my clients about what they valued in terms of the coaching that I did, and I was coaching within large international organizations and senior executives, they said, I particularly valued when you challenged me. So it seemed to me that this was something that was absent in every other part of their life. If they were a senior executive, then it might be the case that the people around them would agree with them, would say yes, because they were the boss. So to actually challenge them, to actually encourage them to look at things from a different perspective was something new and something that they particularly valued. So this model, as we go through challenging coaching, is at the heart of everything we do. So it's a question of when we support somebody, what does it look like? And when we challenge somebody, what does it look like? And what I've got here are some flip charts from when I ran a workshop in Budapest, Hungary. And this is what some of the people suggested in terms of support. So building unconditional trust, standing behind, deep understanding, empathy, belief in others, sense of clarity, security, sharing experience, protection. So these are great words that you can see here, all about affirming the individual. So these are needed, these are very, very valuable, but I just wonder, do we overemphasize these? Do we do this too much? Because the balance is challenge. And what we have here, again, things that are encouraging people to step out of their comfort zone, to experience the new. There's things about motivation. There's things about stretching people, take out of their boundaries, step over my shadow, which I think is a lovely phrase. And thinking the unbelievable. But there's also maybe being a bit provocative as well, that we provoke people a little bit to think about other things, different ways of doing things. But this is all about being in service of our clients. Because if we take the word challenge in the isolation, what things do you think of that? Now, it can be that you think about aggression, you think about being questioned, you think about fear, you think about anger. But these are some of the words that I think we have to overcome. I think that challenge is actually something that is positive, that can encourage people to step out of their comfort zone, to view the world in a different perspective, in a different way, and to look at doing things that they might never have done before. So if we move away from the negative interpretation of the word challenge, we can look at it as something that can be positive in service of our clients and help our clients achieve the goals that they wish to achieve. So John Blakey and I took the support and challenge and turned it into a 2x2 matrix. So we've got challenge, low to high, and support, low to high. And we've got low challenge, low support, apathy, inertia. Then we've got high support but low challenge, cozy club. Then we've got high challenge, low support, stress, and we've got the loving boot high performance area, which, as with always in these matrices, the top right is always the ideal place to go. But taking these, let's take high challenge, high support, low challenge, the cozy club. There's a lot of acceptance, there's a lot of nurturing taking place. There's maybe is almost like not a lot of moving on, and potentially there's dependency, that the client becomes dependent on the coach to give them this affirmation, this acceptance, and this nurturing. So it's a very cozy place to be. With the low challenge, low support, apathy, and inertia, well, there's not a lot going on of anything. There's no interaction, there's no action, and there's nothing. It's almost like we're going through the motion, we're having a coffee conversation, but there's no real outcome, there's no real purpose to this. And then in terms of the high challenge, low support, this is almost the stress area. This is where it can be confrontational, can be stressful. It can appear like an interrogation, but it can also expose people to new ways of thinking through this provocation of forcing them to look at something in a different way. But if we were to look at high challenge, high support, the loving boot, high performance area, this is where it's really about exploration. So it's support and challenge. The two go together. So it's about achieving more, raising awareness, and also being provocative, but being provocative in service of your clients. So it's not about being provocative as a stressed out boss might be, who lets their emotion take over and they're just angry towards a member of their team. It's not about that. It's about provoking people in service of them, so they step out of their comfort zone and they achieve things that they might have never believed were possible. So this is what we think of whenever we talk about high support, high challenge, and challenging coaching. Can we get to this area where there's this balance of support and challenge, and we explore and we help people achieve and move on, raise awareness, and maybe provoke people? So let's just take this as an example for a moment. So if you've got an example of a coach and a coachee, and this might be third session into the coaching assignment of 6 sessions, the coach might say at the beginning of the session, how did you get on with the actions you agreed to undertake at our last session? So that's a perfectly valid coaching question to start off with. But the coachee, the client, says, I haven't done anything, I've been too busy. Well, think about what would you say as a coach in that situation? How would you respond? So if we use the 2x2 support challenge matrix, well, we could say, if it was low challenge, low support, apathy, inertia, it was okay, well, that's not an issue. I don't really care if you've done it or not. But what would you like to talk about today? Almost like, there's no issue here. But is that really effective? If we were to think
Yeah,
about,
I've got a comment here.
carry on.
Shall we? Okay, so yeah. So come from Grace. Hi, Grace. In my experience, when you coach professionals, you only really get their real story. After a while, they don't reveal example how they suffer anxiety, depression.
Right.
How as a coach, because I'm at a high level here, what is your feedback on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting point because unlike a broken arm, you can't see somebody who is suffering from a mental illness. So this is an interesting thing because most people don't tell you in the chemistry session or the contracting session, that they've got a mental illness. They just don't do that. So you don't know. You don't know. But I believe that most people are coping, are typical. And yes, I have coached people through this process. And the third session, they've trusted me so much that they're saying, well, actually, Ian, I am suffering from anxiety and depression, and I'm on antidepressants. Now, it's an interesting point, isn't it? What you do then? Because I think as a coach, you've always got to have the ability to refer on. You've always got to have the ability to know that there are experts and professionals that you can refer people to. And so sometimes, on several occasions, I've coached people while in parallel they have been seeing a therapist. And that has worked okay because they've been separate issues dealt with by separate experts. So their area of expertise has been protected, and there's no overlap. But as I say, you can't tell. You can't tell. But I think there is this belief that I have that everybody is capable and resourceful and is functioning, unless they tell me otherwise. So I believe that typically I can challenge people and they will respond. But as we'll come to as we go further through the conversation, it's all about calibration. So you don't go steaming in with high challenge, low support, stress, interrogation. You don't do that to start off with. It's almost like you build up to it and you calibrate. What's the typical response from your clients? And how do they react? So you're observing what's going on. And what I describe it as, it's almost like we're in a laboratory of learning. So we're in a laboratory, and as a coach, I'm undertaking experiments by asking certain things or saying certain things. And what I'm doing is I'm observing the response from the clients. So all of the time, I'm looking for typical or atypical responses, and I'm wondering what's going on. And I'm asking, how are you feeling? What's happening? So I'm trying to understand all of the time what's happening. So it's using this consciously and subtly. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Good answer.
So then, as I talked about here, we've got the Cozy Club, which is low challenge, high support, and the coach might say in response, okay, it sounds like you've had a difficult few weeks. How does that make you feel? So again, lots of affirmation. There's no judgment in this. It's just, okay, how does it make you feel? And if we were to go to the high challenge, low support, so this is the stress box, it could be saying, well, that's just not good enough. Whose time are we wasting here? So this is the coach speaking their truth. Because honestly, this is session 3. You haven't delivered what you promised. And let's face it, the client, this is the actions you agreed to undertake at session 2. And it might be symptomatic of other things that happen within your organization, that other people might be experiencing the fact that you don't deliver on your promises. So this isn't good enough. Whose time are we wasting? So that's high stress, high challenge, low support. But then again, we've got the high challenge, high support, which is the loving boots, high performance area. So it could be a response that the coach speaks their truth, saying, well, this is awkward. It does make me feel awkward. But I don't want to let you off the hook with this one. How committed are you to this coaching process? And I think statements like that, it all depends on the tone of voice that you say these things. Now, some of you might be familiar with transactional analysis and the parent-child, and it can be a critical parent that, whoa, how committed are you to this process, you fool? It's almost like they're very, very critical. Now, what I'm saying is we don't have that critical parent's voice. We don't take it like that. We have it as a very adult-to-adult conversation. It's a very matter of fact. Okay, this is awkward, but I don't want to let you off the hook. How committed are you to this coaching process? Let's explore. Let's understand what's happening here. There's no judgment, but I really want to explore and understand. So those are examples of things that we might do in relation to that. But the thing is, whenever I ask coaches, are you challenging coach? Do you offer support and challenge? They always go, yes, I do. Of course I do. But this next slide demonstrates this might not be the case, because at a conference, I asked that very question of what you would do if somebody didn't undertake any of the actions that they agreed. And without giving people an indication of the answers, so without influencing people, it came out that 10% of the respondents would say, okay, what do you want to talk about today? 50%, it sounds like you've had a difficult few weeks. How does that make you feel? So 50% said they would offer an answer as if it was in the Cozy Club. 31% talked about the loving boot. This is awkward. I don't want to let you off the hook. How committed are you? And 9%, it's not good enough. Whose time are you wasting? It's a stress box. So what it seems by this result is that the majority of coaches are operating in the Cozy Club. High affirmation, high support, but low challenge. So that's great for making the client feel good. But does it help them move on? Does it help them grow and develop into the person that they want to? But if we were to take the loving boot high performance area, by exploring that, by being curious, would it help them achieve what they want? So that's something to reflect on there.
Yeah. Quick question. Back to that page. I've got a question on that. Can we go back, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That page.
So most time we have coaches or big coaches. We ask the questions, and then there's a response. 10%. I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
With your experience, what is your response for such? Because we coaches or up-and-coming coaches, we tend to have that questions all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think that is an appropriate question. It's a completely appropriate question. But in the context that we have here, how did you get on with the actions you agreed to take from our last session? I haven't done anything. I've been too busy. Would you go into immediately saying, okay, what do you want to talk about today? Or would you want to explore that? I think there's something to explore, because it's a symptom of what's happening in that coachee's world. And I think there's something to explore there, to be curious about, not to judge, not to want to make somebody feel bad, but really be curious about, you've been too busy and you haven't done any of the actions that you agreed to undertake. Well, let's really explore that. So it's a question of the sequence and when it's appropriate and when it's not. And you might explore what's going on, and then you say, okay, based on that conversation, what have you learned? And then you might say, okay, well, what else do you want to talk about today?
Yeah.
So does that help, Eric?
Good note. Very good note, yes.
So again, one of the other models within challenging coaching is this zone of uncomfortable debate. And this was originally developed by Professor Cliff Bowman at Cranfield University. And what this was saying is about how people engage in a conversation. So typically, if you're in a purposeful conversation, there's something at the heart of this issue. There's a purpose, a reason for us having this conversation. So there's this elephant in the room. There's this matter that we want to resolve. But the way we tend to enter into a conversation with somebody else is we tend to enter into the zone of comfortable debate to start off with. How was your weekend? What did you do? How's the family? These sort of nice, easy topics that are not confrontational. There's no tension. There's no issues related to it. It's just nice and comfortable interaction. So that's the zone of comfortable debate. But if we want it to be more than just a social conversation, some chit-chat, we've got to get to the heart of the matter to resolve the elephant in the room. So we've got to go into the zone of uncomfortable debate. Now, this might be where we ask or say things that can be a little bit more challenging. It could raise the tension a little bit more. And there could be the fear that if we do that, if we think that it might break the rapport that I've got with this other person. They might storm out. They might leave the room and never talk to me again. So sometimes we diffuse, we feel tension, we diffuse it, and we go back to that zone of comfortable debate, and we start talking about the weather or where they went on vacation. But we never actually get to resolve the matter at hand. We never get to deal with the elephant in the room. So as coaching, we've got to be comfortable to hold the tension and enter and stay in the zone of uncomfortable debate. Again, where the tension might be raised, but with the understanding that it is in service of the client. It is helping them achieve the goal they've stated, the outcome that they desire. So I think we've got to view this as a positive process that we go through. We go from the zone of comfortable debate into the zone of uncomfortable debate to resolve the matter at hand, the elephant in the room, to really make a significant change to the client. So let's talk about some of the other approaches, some of the traditional approaches to coaching. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the history of coaching is it developed out of counselling and therapy. And I say that served coaching very well, but there's some issues relating to that. Now, this is a diagram of a temple of traditional coaching. And you can see here the three pillars that are holding up traditional coaching are the non-directive approach, holding to the individual's agenda, and building rapport. So these are the things that you might be familiar with in terms of non-directive person-centered coaching, the things that you're trained in, the things that you might look at and again say, that's a lot about the support that you offer towards the client. So I think they're good foundation skills, but they're only a foundation. They can be moved on from that because there are risks associated with it. And the risks are collusion, self-obsession, and being irrelevant. Because I think you can collude with the client's viewpoints of the world. You can be sympathizing with them rather than empathizing with them. So you can actually collude in their worldview. And that might not be the case because, as we know, we view things through different lenses. We interpret the world through different lenses. And my lens on the world might actually be completely different to my clients. And if I was to share my perspective, would that give them an insight of what alternative possibilities there were? So that risk of collusion is definitely there. Self-obsession. Well, the person becomes very focused on themselves rather than thinking of the environment, the system, the people around them. And irrelevance. Well, we might end up coaching somebody on how to improve their golf swing rather than how to change the world around them and overcome the challenges that they face. So those are some of the risks I think we need to be critically aware of in terms of traditional coaching. And in challenging coaching...
I've got a question.
Yeah?
I've got a question on that one from Hello Ojuma. So it says, this might be, my question is, where does the setting of goals feature on this process and measurement and evaluation against set goals?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm just going to flick forward. Right, so I'm flicking forward to the model. So this is the FACT model. So feedback, accountability, courageous goals, tension, system thinking. So you can see there that this is the FACT model of challenging coaching. And we've got these 5 elements that are equally important. So it's not a sequential model like the GROW model. It's just saying these 5 elements are equally important, and courageous goals are here. And I can talk about this in a little bit more detail in a while. But goals are here centrally in challenging coaching and facts, because it's about helping somebody transition from one position, one point to another. But what's important to bear in mind is that goals can be things that people wish to achieve, but goals can also be the way somebody wants to be as well. So they might want to be confident, happy, contented, fulfilled. That's their way of being. And that is as valid as I want to achieve a promotion. I want to win that $1 million contract. I want to climb Mount Everest. So it's not just about achievement, it's about the way of being as well. So goals are still central to this challenging coaching approach, yes.
Excellent.
So, as I said, the Temple of Challenging Coaching, we've got 5 pillars here. And the central pillar is trusting the future potential of all. So this is a belief that I'm very passionate about, that everybody has greatness within them. And through the coaching, can that greatness be unlocked? And that greatness is what they want to be or how they want to be in the future. But I believe everybody has that potential. So they're not vulnerable, they're not broken, they are able to achieve that greatness for themselves in the future. And on the outside of that, we've got build the contract, honor the contract. So to do this, we've got to have a coaching contract in place that is very explicit, very detailed about what we're going to achieve, how we're going to do this, and how we're going to work together. And to achieve those goals, we've got to be passionately curious. As a coach, I've got to be passionately curious, that I'm passionately interested in the world of my clients. I'm curious to understand their way of thinking, their way of being, their world, their life, their aspirations. And I want to encourage the clients as well to be curious about why they have those beliefs and what's holding them back. So there's a curiosity on both fronts there. And there's the next one on the right-hand side is letting go of status and outcome. So as a coach, it's not my responsibility to achieve the outcomes for the clients. I'm not there to demonstrate that I'm a brilliant coach. So I put my ego to one side. I am a servant of my clients, and I am there to help them achieve their greatness. So I let go of my status and I let go of the need to produce a result for my clients. And the final one is speak your truth, face the facts. Now, the speak your truth, this is one that relates to some of the work that Carl Rogers, one of the fathers of person-centered counselling many years ago, he talked about the fact that a counsellor had to be congruent, without facade, to speak their truth. And this is central to challenging coaching, that a coach, we should be able to speak our truth, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and share that with the client so they face the facts of what's happening in their reality. So these are the pillars that support the challenging coaching, the facts model. So they're different to the traditional coaching. So these are the
question for you, Ian.
Yeah, carry on.
So, question from the US. Can't see where it's coming from. Can we use this model on a personal note, i.e., on a life coaching, compared to executive coaching?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So, I come from an executive coaching background, so I've tended to coach within organizations, but I also work with private clients who are it's life coaching, so they pay the bill themselves and they're being coached about anything. and yes, it is transferable. So I think this approach can be used with anybody, whether it's an executive coach, whether it's an independent client as a life coach, with anybody. I do believe that this approach can work with anyone. So, okay.
We've got comments from Melanie.
Yeah.
Melanie, good afternoon. Hi, Melanie. Great to join you today. It's good to hear about the risk of traditional coaching. I love the concept of passionate curiosity on both sides. Great comments.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really nice. Thank you very much. And it is interesting because I think as we learn our coaching, sometimes we just accept it. We don't question it. And I think we should question things. Why is it like this? Is this the best it could be? And I think that's important to ask those questions rather than just accepting that this is how it should be, because things can always be better, things can always evolve. And I don't think we should be stuck in the past, and we should always ask why. We should always think of different ways and better ways to serve our clients. So, okay, Eric, any other questions, comments?
Yeah. I'm waiting for more to come through.
Okay. So shall I carry on then?
I've got Grace comments. Again, comments love the concept of the client model. On that, I want to ask this question. Not many people know what this model. We all used to the traditional ways. Why is that?
Well, again, I go back to the ICF competency framework. So you've got 63 competencies and one relating to challenge. So I think there is a bit of an issue around this, that the professional coaching bodies, and the ICF is just one of many. All of the professional bodies seem to view that we have to support people, but my view is, well, that's because there's a view that the mindset of somebody that does that is, I've got to protect my clients. They are vulnerable. They cannot take challenge. I cannot be provocative. I've got to nurture them. I've got to look after them. I've got to protect them. Now, that's not a relationship of equals. But I wonder how many coaches actually think like that. How many people actually question, well, if I really believe that my client has greatness within them, if I really believe that they are an equal, then I could do more than just support them, because they are not vulnerable people in need of my arm around their shoulder. They are capable individuals that can withstand and think for themselves. If I have that as a central belief, then I can challenge and I can support. But I do wonder, what do a lot of people, coaches, think? Do they think that their clients are broken, vulnerable individuals that need to be fixed, and it's their job as a coach to fix them? I think if people go into coaching with that mindset, I think there's an issue with that.
I've got a question on that. Once you are there, someone just asked, because to protect the client about their pain.
Yeah. So say that again, Eric. Just read that again.
Right. So the question I raised was based on what you were saying. Yeah. Is that because to protect the clients, not challenge them because they're paying, we don't want to lose them?
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Well, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because I think as a coach, I should be willing. Again, everything is in service of my clients. And if it's an executive coach and the organization that's paying my bill. So I've got two clients. I've got the coachee, the person sat in front of me, and I've got the client, the organization. So I should serve both of those. But it is this thing, isn't it, that should I protect them so they carry on paying my bill? Or should I be willing to say something that could help move them out of their comfort zone, that might be quite provocative, could create a real step change in what they're doing, but there is a risk that we go into the zone of uncomfortable debate and we break rapport and they never want to see us again. So that means they're not going to pay us any more fees. So that's an issue, isn't it? But as a coach, I shouldn't worry about a fee. I should worry about my clients and my sponsoring organization achieving the outcome that they desire. I shouldn't be thinking about, well, this is a 6-month assignment. Let's see if I can stretch it out for 9. I certainly shouldn't be doing that. If I achieve my job in 5, great, job done. So I'm looking to serve my client in the sponsoring organization. I'm not out to get more fees, and I don't think coaches should think in that way.
Whilst you're there, let me just present to the audience. If you haven't seen the book, this is a book. As I said from the beginning, I'm using the model. Sometimes it's very challenging. Clients are not happy and I have to challenge them. So a lot of questions from Grace that she asks because we don't want to lose the clients because they're paying us. But as you can say, we want the best for the clients. We know what is the potential to have. So as a coach, yes, you don't want to lose a client, but you got to be firm. And for me, not because I'm promoting Yen, but it has helped me. And I've got clients based on that because I'm able to challenge them from their comfort zone. So please reach out to Amazon, find the book, and then get it from Amazon.
Thank you for that, Eric. So I'm conscious that time remarkably quickly. But let me go back and talk about the facts model and give you a very quick overview of the facts model. So, taking on board the support and challenge matrix and the zone of uncomfortable debate, and John Blakey and I spent a lot of time trying to distill down what do we actually do that means that it's effective for our clients and our sponsoring organizations. And we distilled down everything we did into this facts model. So this is feedback, accountability, courageous goals, tension, and systems thinking. So feedback. Now this can be a controversial area for coaches. I remember presenting at one conference, and somebody asked me the question that once you've dumped all of this stuff on the client, what are they meant to do with it? And those were the exact words. Once you've dumped all this stuff. So my view is that feedback is a very positive thing. It gives somebody a different perspective. It gives people a different insight. It's almost like having a third eye. So I view feedback as a gift, but quite often our experiences, feedback is something that is badly delivered and is only done when it's criticism. So feedback has got a bad name, but it doesn't have to be like that. Because as I say, when we're in the coaching room, we're in a laboratory of learning, and as a coach, I can say to my clients, well, based on what you've said, this is my reaction. This is my feedback. This is my response. If you were to say that to me as a member of your team, I might think this. So I can provide that feedback before they go out in the real world and try it out for themselves. So I think it's my duty. If I feel something, if I think something, it's my duty to share it with my clients in the coaching room. Then we've got accountability, and this is accountability at a level. So accountability in terms of a personal level is, do we arrive on time for our coaching meetings? Simply like that. Do we abide by the contracts that we've got within our coach contracts? So do we stick to the agreement that we've established? So this is how we'll operate. This is what I expect in terms of the notice I'll give if I'm going to have to cancel the session if I'm ill. This is what I expect if the person is going to cancel the session if they're ill. But also there's the accountability to the sponsoring organization if this is within an organizational context. The objectives that we achieve are within the context of the organization. So it's not breaching the values of the organization. It's not helping somebody maximize their own bonus potential. risking other elements of the organization. So it's making sure that we hold people accountable on 3 levels: personal, contracts, and higher level organization. And then courageous goals. Well, as I mentioned, this word courageous is here because it's about stepping out of the comfort zone, doing something that they've never done before, believing that things can be possible that haven't been achieved yet. So this is maybe about taking a risk. If somebody fears starting a goal, if somebody feels inspired but also fearful at the same time, this could be that they're edge on a courageous goal because they're feeling fear and they're feeling inspired at the same time. Those are 2 elements of a courageous goal. And it's how can I, as a coach, support them to realize it's okay, but also I can challenge them to move closer to that courageous goal. Then there's tension. So how can I use the tension to ensure that it's almost like a dynamic energy within the coaching room? So how can I, if somebody is just appears to be going through the coaching session in quite a laissez-faire way, not really thinking deeply, not really trying particularly hard, then I can increase the tension, maybe in the tone of voice, the pace I use, the questions I use. So how can I use tension to increase or decrease what's happening in the coaching room? I remember a person at a coaching session 10 minutes late, and I was just about to hold him to account on that. And he said, "Ian, sorry I'm late. I've just been told I've been going to made redundant. So I've got a week." So he needed a lot of support in that moment. And so he just spoke. He just talked for 45 minutes. And I just listened, active listening, positive regard, just nodding, and then say, "Okay, what are you going to do with it?" So there's an increasing and decreasing tension. It's dynamic energy within the room. And then the final one is the S, systems thinking. So this is bearing in mind that we live within systems, we work within systems. So the system of my family, the system of my friends, the system of my place of work, the system of my society, the system of my culture. And it's almost like thinking about if you were at a pond of water and you dropped a pebble into the pond, you would see ripples radiate outwards. And they would go to the banks of the pond and they would bounce back. And it's almost like thinking about, well, your action is equivalent to dropping a pebble into the pond. What are the ripples that radiate outwards? So how do we raise the awareness of people, of the clients, about short-term, long-term implications of the actions that they undertake? Who are the stakeholders that are involved in their decisions? Who are the stakeholders who are absent in that moment, such as customers, clients? Their grandchildren could be a stakeholder, an absent stakeholder who haven't even been born yet. But, for example, it could be that they're making a large decision related to environmental issues. So how do we raise awareness in terms of the system in which we operate? And as I say, as I'm coaching somebody, it's bearing in mind all 5 of those elements and using the support and challenge matrix as well. So a very quick overview. I'm very conscious of time, and there's a lot more detail that I could go into, but I'm conscious that the hour is drifting away very quickly.
I've got a question based on the hello from me. Why is that we tend to, as a coaches, tend to ask the clients their goals rather than looking at to the feedback that we're giving them? Why do we tend to ask the client goals rather than good feedback? Can you explain to the audience?
So, say that again, please, Eric.
Right. So the question was, we coaches tend to ask our clients their goals for the coaching session. Why don't we ask them feedback?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of previous what have discussed?
Yeah, well, I think that's really important. I think it goes both ways, and feedback is very important. So I will offer. No, I won't offer it because I will give it because it's part of the coaching contract. So as part of the coaching contract, the chemistry session, I will say to my clients, I will give you feedback. So I don't ask for permission to give feedback because I know they'll say yes. So it's bizarre dance. So I will give feedback, but I'll also ask for feedback from the clients as well. And I've always done that because I think it is an opportunity to learn and grow, both as a client and a coach. But also, I think as a goal, I'm not judgmental. I'm not judgmental. So I'm not going to say, oh, that goal isn't good enough, unless I know somebody particularly well and I feel particularly robust, and I believe that they can take that level of high challenge, low support. I may offer that, but I certainly wouldn't do that in the beginning of a relationship, at the beginning of a session, because I say you calibrate, you build up based on the responses you get. So I wouldn't judge a goal. I might say, what else could you do? What more could you do? Would that make you proud? Would that inspire you? What would really inspire you? So I think this is an important thing, and it is about using all 5 of these elements in the round and making sure that we use it in service of the client and in service of the sponsoring organisation as well.
I've got a comment from Melanie again. Let me read to you. And very much like how the model is about challenging coaching, but the way you express this is in terms of real care for the clients. The two could be seen as opposition, but they are clearly not. How can we help more coaches do better understand this so they can be more challenging?
Well, that's a really
are coming through quick.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, isn't it? Because I think, again, it's that mindset of the coach about why are they a coach and what are they there to do? Are they really there to rescue and protect and find a solution? And I think a lot of coaches actually do think their role is to find a solution for the client's problems. Well, actually, most of the time the client doesn't have a problem. It's not something that needs to be fixed. But I think we need to, again, through this systems thinking approach, we need to think about, well, it's the client operating within the organizational context. And the organization, the HR department, is paying my bill. So I need to just bear in mind that I cannot focus on this individual alone. I've got to look at this individual within the context of this system and how they can grow and how they can achieve their greatness and how their organization can also benefit from their greatness being displayed further in their role.
I've got a few comments on LinkedIn. The book is sold. How can we get copies?
The book is what, sold out?
Yes.
Is it really?
How can we get copies?
Good heavens! I'll talk to my publisher about that. That's crazy. If somebody wants to, I don't know. Well, I won't do this to a lot of people, but if somebody wants to drop me their name and address, I'll send you a copy. But I don't. Please don't send me loads, because I'll talk to my publisher. Thank you. I didn't know that. Oh. It's only just restocking. So
that's fine. Guys, if you want to get in touch with Ian, please sharing his contact again on the screen. I've got 2 more questions. So thank you, Melanie. I think you got a comment here. So this model aligns many more of the competence that first appears. And then I've got great news. The book, well deserved. And I've got one from LinkedIn. The question is, why the FAT model it's not like well advertised, because it's very important and we need it. So what is the reason why it's not? Because I mean, if it was my university, I would have known. So yeah, the question back to you, why it's not out there?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. I certainly would like to thank Eric for helping it be more known through for the session today. But it's an interesting thing, isn't it? There are lots of coaching models out there, and I do think this one adds something different and unique. And within a lot of the HR professionals and a lot of line managers that I've spoken to, this one seems to be hits the mark. It resonates quite significantly. But I think within sort of the coaches that might be described as pure, non-directed, person-centered coaching, this can be quite difficult. I remember I went to a conference once, and one of the comments was, "So what you're saying is the Pope is a Methodist?" we were saying something that was completely radical. Well, that person believed that we were saying something completely radical, but I don't know. I think again, it's what's the emotion that goes on around the word challenge. So I think people just need to dig under and reflect on their own emotions when the word like challenge, or the word like tension, or the word like provocation. Think about your own emotional response to those words. And where's that come from? It might have come from your early upbringing or experiences at school, and that's had an impact on the whole of your life. So these words have a weight to them, and I think that's some of the things that mean that people don't get past the title.
I've got a comment here. I think we need to lobby the change frameworks that are promoted by the coaching organizations. What do you think?
Well, yes, that's very true. I would love to see more challenge in there, and the belief in the benefit of challenge. But again, I think you've got to think about the philosophical history of these organizations. Where do they come from? So their philosophy has been ingrained for what, 20 years or whatever. And so they've got a long history that's embedded. So it's going to be difficult for them to move away from some of their core beliefs and the history, their evolution from therapy. So it's going to take time. I'm not being critical of the coaching bodies, because I think they've done a wonderful job in professionalizing coaching. But I think there's a way to go here.
Another question: does the model work better in some coaches? That's a good question.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. I suppose I've coached people internationally, so but they tend to be Western, so American, European, English, Australian. They've tended to be sort of Western people. So I'd be interested to find out from other people around the globe what your experience is. Now, the book has sold across the globe, and I've not heard any sort of negative comments from people that it's just not appropriate for the Chinese market, or it's just not appropriate for the South American culture. I've not heard any of those comments, but I'd be interested to hear from people about your experiences of using this in different parts of the world.
All right, we've got 2 minutes. We're one of time, but I will try to give more questions. For example, coaches challenge is okay, others is not polite. And I think that was related to one of the big companies I'm working with. I wouldn't mention names. I did challenge them, and I think they were not happy. So the contract was ended, I'm afraid.
Well, I think this is the thing, because challenge can be perceived as a negative thing, because it can be a very emotional thing that, out of frustration, we say something that's challenging and unguarded. But if I was, again, in the transactional analysis sense, if I were to say something in an adult to adult way that was matter of fact, that was neutral, that wasn't pointing the finger or accusing anybody of anything, it was just very adult to adult. This is just my observation. This is what I've noticed. Then maybe it's not seen as critical. Maybe it's just seen as an alternative perspective to consider.
Okay. We've got 1 minute. Yen, I'm going to, guys, if you have questions, please use Yen contact. Please add him to your LinkedIn, or you can also go to challengecoaching.co.uk for more details. You can reach to him as well. Quick question before we go. Why the FAT model? Because I use it for my clientele, and some of them loved it. Some of them hate the challenge side, as I mentioned, culture-wise. What made you guys, you and your co-author, come with these concepts?
I think it goes back to we were getting a lot of positive feedback from our clients, and they were valuing what we were doing, and it was thinking about what is it that we did that was valued by these executives around the globe, and it was just sort of distilling that down into these 5 elements, and it was a lot of head scratching, a lot of thinking over a number of years to develop the facts model, but it was all based on what was working well for our clients, and bearing that in mind. And that was the essence of what led to the facts model.
Excellent. All right, guys, thank you for Melanie. That was a great session, and it was just great insights. She's going to buy the book. I've got Grace. I saw the book is sold. Please let me know how to find more books. I've got LinkedIn. Please let us know how to find the books. Please, if you haven't done so, it looks like this, so you can miss it. Great model, great book. Before we go, this is our last session for the webinar. Yen being the 14th coach for a speaker for such program, we are humbled to have all the guests. We have our webinar summit, June 24th. Please join us. It will be fascinating. I've got over 20 so-called coaches that are waiting to be accepted. We've got 14 confirmed, so it's going to be amazing, one full-day event. Last word, Yen, before we go. The audience loved it. I mean, I see so much response. LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, just, I mean, amazing. Great session. Where do we go from here on this model?
Well, it's a very interesting question, isn't it? It is. I think what the message is from a number of people is they didn't know about the model, and it needs to be more out there. So if I can have some people that help spread the word around the world, that would be fantastic. Because I think I am very passionate about this, that it's a force for good, and it's a model that can add a lot of value. So if you can help spread the word, that'll be absolutely fantastic, because I still think it's got a way to go yet.
Excellent. And last but not the least, COVID world. How have you been yourself?
I've stayed well, thank you, and my family stayed well. So we've been good, but I think everybody I think is interested in lockdown easing and trying to figure out what the post-COVID world will be, what it will be like, and when it will be. It's going to be a different world, and I think it's going to be a challenging one to get through at the moment, particularly when reading about what's happening in India at the moment. I think we've got a way to go yet, but I hope everyone stays well, and I wish you well for the future, and let's look forward to the other side of COVID.
Excellent. On this note, I wish everyone safe. Please look after yourself. And last, reach out to Ian for all details. You've got his contacts on the screen. Goodbye. And stay safe.
Thank you, Eric. Nice to see you all.
Pleasure.